Freeport City Council this Monday, April 1st, 2024 at 6 p.m. I would declare that there is a quorum present, that all notices have been legally posted pursuant to the Opens Meeting Act, and I will now call this meeting to order. At this time, I would ask Councilman Rosso to please lead us in the blessing and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you right now for all you've doing, all you've done, all you're going to do. Thank you, Lord, for this meeting that you call. We ask you, Lord, to bless us this day, for this is the day that you've made, Lord, and we love you, Lord. Thank you for Easter. Thank you for all the beautiful things that took place yesterday. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we have citizen comments, and the first person will be Manning Rollerson.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
I come today because the last council meeting I was to, damn near had a heart attack. And I won't let our fine public servants do anything to me when it comes to treatment, medical treatment. But I almost had a heart attack worrying about changing y'all guys' hearts and y'all minds. It's not gonna happen. Yesterday we all celebrated a Savior who went to the cross for the sins of man because none was worthy. And all of us stood there with our hearts poured out about a man that sacrificed his life for the common good of another man. But what do y'all sacrifice for us as citizens? Y'all sacrifice us. We have to accept what y'all give to us. Even though we reject it, we have to accept it. Y'all sacrificing us. Y'all sacrificing our futures. Y'all sacrificing our city because there's like one lady said, and to be honest, the same thing that was played, the downtown is a shithole. It totally is. I've been here all my life. And to invest $1 billion into the thing that y'all love, which is manufacturing and approaching into the city of Freeport, it hasn't grown Freeport. We haven't got a return on our money. We have a lack of homes in our community because we sold off all the urban development land. So where's the tax base? You got to depend on the industry that's in our communities. Not knocking you, some of your administration, for the good things you did and the good things you brought here, which I think that's a good start to get away from manufacturing and toxic chemicals. It's a perfect start because the statistics on death in this city and diseases is very high. And no one's telling us. You have to go to the federal government to find out the truth because we are being sacrificed for so-called the common good, for Freeport, for economical growth. But where's the growth? In decades. And to the candidates that are running for office, if you can't go to the people and talk in these forums, that's like me jumping in a car with a blind person sending me down the road somewhere, and we don't know where we're going. It's best to get in front of the citizens and tell the citizens your direction. The Bible said without a vision the people will perish. What is your vision? That's to all of you guys. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
One more thing that I have to do.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Winston, when I called you a liar, I apologize for that. My pastor got on me. I apologize for that. But I do expect the man of God to do better for his people because you're a shepherd.
Thank you, sir. Mr. William Leach.
This is regarding the,
Hold on one second, wait till you get to the mic. Or do you want to speak when we get to that point on the agenda?
yes, I would.
All right, thanks, sir. Mr. Reyna?
Mayor, Council, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Sam Reina, and I reside in 2002 North Avenue G. The day I took these photos that you have in front of you, I received this letter, and it was a coincidence. And the letter read, "Dear Mr. Reina, have you ever noticed how well-maintained neighborhoods rarely have problems with crime, while disorderly neighborhoods with trash on the streets and graffiti painted on buildings usually have the worst crime?" And that's a true statement. These photos are from Ward C only, and not all of Ward C, but the majority of Ward C anyway. I contacted Ward C Councilman, Mr. Matamoros, and he had inspected his ward and agreed about the trash problem. Said there would be trucks picking up all trash on Friday. And he was right. Trucks arrived on Friday, but they picked up only what they wanted to pick up. Mattresses and all green waste were not. They can pick it up if they want to, but they don't have to. The AmeriWaste contract agreement, AmeriWaste Solution may, in its sole discretion, reject any excluded waste provided by the customer. So they can pick it up, but they don't have to pick it up. Green waste can be picked up by grapple trucks, and AmeriWaste has some. AmeriWaste has some because they used the first couple of months of the contract, but I haven't seen them since. AmeriWaste Solution is supposed to provide all equipment to do a proper job according to the contract. And then gravel truck, I've never seen them, like I said, first two months I did. The two companies providing this solid waste collections prior to AmeriWaste were Waste Management and Waste Connection. Waste Management Take All services included garbage collection twice per week, once per week heavy trash collection, which includes green waste, twice for months bulk waste collection. Waste Connection was picking up bulky waste once a week, not once a month. AmeriWaste Solution picked up bulky waste is once a month. And they're not doing it, as you can see by the photos. They depend on citywide cleanup twice a year. They wait for you to take it over there. Waste Management and Waste Connection provide waste services to the U.S., Canada, and Puerto Rico. Waste Management signed a 6-year contract. Waste Management signed a 3-year contract, and AmeriWaste signed a 7-year contract. The 7-year contract was an unknown company set up red flags. 7-year contract for, we don't know nothing about, I didn't know nothing about AmeriWaste. Anyway, our waste collection problems will continue with AmeriWaste Solutions at the helms. They have breached a contract agreement. Give them 30 days to provide the services. If not, let them hit the highway. Contractor AmeriWaste was to ensure working personnel bear some means of individual identification, such as uniforms with name badges, name tags, or identification cards. I've never seen them workers wear a uniform. Never.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Keith Stumbaugh?
Good evening, Mayor Bass,
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Petty, and city council members. My name is Keith Stumbaugh. I am the spokesperson for the concerned citizens of Freeport. Here tonight to regret to inform this council that the CCF candidate forum scheduled for this coming Saturday has been canceled due to inadequate candidate participation. We regret this, and hopefully we'll have better participation next election cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dancy?
Hello, council. I hope everybody had a good Sunday.
Good
Easter.
morning, or good afternoon, excuse me.
Good. And I hope everybody's healthy. Pam Dancy, South Front Street. I happened to be at the dog park in Lake Jackson this weekend, and there were 4 people that we were sitting around each other just chit-chatting about, animals and so forth. Well, anyway, I didn't know these people, and we asked, where do you live, blah, blah, blah. Well, they asked me, I told them I live in Freeport, and they asked me what is going on with the $345,000 that Mr. Kelty wrongly released. And they asked me if we were going to get that money back. And I told them, I said, I have no idea what's going on with that. I said, after it took place, then we got a new city manager, and I hadn't brought it up because I thought, well, give him some time to, get acclimated. But I'm going to bring it up now. We need to know what happened, what are we doing about it, and when you are going to bring it up in executive session, because we haven't seen that. And I just don't want it to fall through the cracks, because that bank account, I feel like it's mine. I feel like it's everybody that's sitting here and you guys sitting up there. We all contribute to the city funds. So it's our money. Part of it is anyway. And I'd like to know, and the citizens want to know what you guys plan on doing and getting our money back. That's all I have to say on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I will be bringing it up at every council meeting until I see that y'all have some type of action for the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Ms. Marshall?
Thank you. Good evening, Shonda Marshall, 135 Brazos Landing Court. I wanted to see if the project for the housing on Skinner Street is still a project that will be happening. I've called to City Hall several times to inquire about this particular project, and I haven't been able to speak to anyone that could give me the answers. I've also left messages, and I have not received any return calls. I'm trying to make future plans for me and my sons, and my desire is to stay in Freeport. So I just wanted to know if this was still going to happen. Also, and I know Mr. Pettit is extremely busy. This is a new position. He's in a lot of meetings. I totally understand and get that. And so I wondered if there is an assistant city manager, someone that we could reach out to if we are not able to reach Mr. Pettit. I haven't heard anything about an assistant city manager, so I was just curious. I would appreciate if these questions could be answered during work session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, with that, we'll get into presentations and announcements, or maybe not. Hold on. Oh, no, that's standard. Okay, very good. Shonda. All right. Chief, don't go too far. All right. Number one, we have proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And then number two, we have proclamation for National Animal Control Officer Appreciation Week.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I was requesting and everything to have a proclamation for National Telecommunicator Week. It is something that is done annually each year, and an opportunity to be able to recognize telecommunicators throughout the U.S. The hard work that they do, they're referred to as the silent heroes, because those are generally the individuals that aren't seen. They're kind of behind the scenes, if you will. And so I would ask the council to recognize them for their week and everything in a proclamation.
Already have and have fixed my signature to it.
Thank you, sir. You want to go on to the next one?
Yes, ma'am.
My next one is for the same week, happens to actually be nationally recognized for Animal Control Officer Appreciation Week. Again, another individual at our organization that oftentimes doesn't get the recognition that they deserve because of the job that they do. It's generally out, catching your dogs at large, cats, turkeys, alligators. It ranges everything here in Freeport. And so we just want an opportunity and everything to be able to recognize them again for the service that they perform for our community.
I have affixed my name to the second proclamation, therefore it is so ordered.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate all that you do. Next item is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items should be considered routine in nature and may be acted upon in one motion. We have 3 and 4, consideration of possible action on the approval of City Council meeting minutes from March 18th, 2024. And number 4, consideration of possible action for road closures for Cinco de Mayo event on May 3rd, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda
All right.
as presented.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion by Councilman Matamoros. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Have a second from Councilman Kane. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Motions carried unanimously, 5-0. Council business regular session, item number 5, consideration and possible action approving resolution number 2024-2852, authorizing a revision to the City of Freeport Policy Handbook, Chapter 5, Standards of Conduct, Section 5.14, Harassment in the Workplace. Mrs. Fisher.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
In February, one of the attorneys from Olson & Olson came down and did a harassment awareness and prevention for managers for our staff. Every manager supervisor attended. While she was here, she took a look at our harassment in the workplace policy and had some suggestions to make. It's one paragraph on, I think it's the 3rd page. It will give employees options on where to go to report instances where they feel like they are being harassed. It spells out who they should see, and it changes the language a little bit. Our previous language was more along the lines of guilty until proven innocent. So this took some of that out of there. These were her recommendations, and I have incorporated them into our policy.
All right, I have reviewed those, and I think they're appropriate, so I will make the motion to approve item number 5, the resolution number 2024-2852, and I'll look for a second.
Mayor, I'll second your motion.
Thank you, Councilman Matamoros. Any discussion?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Ms. Fisher, you had this ordinance, you said it was inspired by the harassment, I guess,
It was the
session
attorney that came and did the harassment awareness and
From-
prevention
from Olson and
training.
Olson?
Yes.
And so then this particular ordinance was reviewed and I guess modified by Olson and Olson as well?
Well, she made the recommendations that I put in here, the modifications. She
So-
reviewed the policy and made the recommendations.
I appreciate it. So my question then is for Mr. Olson. Hey, David. Have you had a chance to review this ordinance and seeing all the changes that were made?
I have, and I talked to Eileen Bagley, who came down and did it. And so she and I did have a conversation about her suggested revisions, and I agree with them, and did review the ultimate ordinance and attachments.
So this ordinance is, I always kind of look back at why we're putting these ordinances in place, and I can't help to be told by many residents here comes another ordinance to put rails on Pena. And so I want to make sure, I'm okay with the rules being changed, just let me know what the rules are, but make sure that they're fair and that they don't violate any other rules or other laws. And so the question I have is, what's the common sense on this here? And I have some very legal questions there that I'm hoping that Mr. Olson here will be able to answer, so that we can in fact vote on this.
Well, we're going to
With
vote
full
on it,
knowledge.
but
Yeah,
I'll say,
I have a
excuse me, sir,
question.
I thought you were through, so.
No, I'm not. I'm
But
haven't
let
yet to
me-
go
let
to
me-
my
let me-
question yet.
Let me address this real quick, Councilman Pena, since you said it was, citizens have been concerned, it's another thing to restrain Pena. This particular section that's being changed applies to employees.
No, it also, I think the agenda said it also applies to councilmen as well.
It simply applies to employees.
Is it employees, elected officials, and also city
This
officials?
particular section only deals with
Employees.
employees.
Okay,
If
well-
you'll read the document carefully, sir,
Let me just
you
go
will
ahead and
see.
state this, is that I'm just curious if there's going to be any other direction in terms of trying to constrain councilmen from making any kind of public awareness of violations, illegal violations, ethical violations of any city hall staff and/or city officials.
Okay,
No,
so,
that's the question I have for Mr. Olson.
well, it's a.
I mean, can he
it's-
answer it, or are you quarterbacking this whole deal to?
I'll quarterback.
buffer it?
No,
You're buffering
no,
it? You're
I'll
filtering it?
quarterback, because
I
quite
thought we
frankly,
hired Olson and Olson by the hour to answer these questions,
we
not
did.
Bass and Associates.
if it is something that is on the agenda.
It is on the
and
agenda.
this is not
This
on
is-
the
this is
agenda in
germane.
regards to harassment of any elected official. Once again, as I told you previously, if you would read, if,
Mr.
excuse me,
Olson, let me ask you a
excuse me, Mr.
question.
Pena, if you would,
I just want to
if
finish my
you,
last question.
Mr. Pena,
Mr. Bass,
if
let me
you
finish.
would read the
I've
material
read it.
beforehand,
I've read it.
you
I've
would
read
know
it.
that it applies to
Yeah.
employees
Now,
only.
I have to be proactive on these
Therefore,
issues.
I am calling
Well,
the question.
Well, the
I am
last
calling the
question.
question.
There you go.
So there we have it.
There you go. What rhymes with Crooks Bass?
There you go.
Cover up after cover.
Yes, make it up. Go ahead.
Well, I don't have to make it up.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, Miss Marshall. Would you take the mic to her, please? Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. With all due respect to the council and the mayor, I would appreciate it if you guys would not talk at the same time. People like me with a hearing deficit, it makes it extremely hard to understand what is being said. So I would just ask that you guys would take turns speaking. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Very good. The question having been called, all those in favor of the approval of the resolution number 2024-2852 signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
4-1, Councilman Pena votes against it. Item number 6, consideration and possible action approving resolution number 2024-2839 for the demolition of the building located at 208 West Park Avenue. Ms. Richardson.
I am Patty Richardson at 21 North Avenue A. I'm addressing the item number 6 about the demo of the historic building. Once history is gone, it's gone. You can't bring it back, you can't emulate it. To try to recreate this in today's time would cost so much more money than just to get the right plan and do repairs. And I hate to see it also demoed because the buildings are around it. You know, they kind of, the integrity of the area, community depends on having some of these historic buildings. And when you start taking one down, you question the integrity of the other buildings in the area, especially the ones that are right next to it, maybe even adjoining. So I just want you to guys consider that. If the citizens wanted to have the structure taken down, if they don't want it to, why would that be considered? I'm kind of curious, I'm not an engineer, I'm a professional, but I'm not a professional engineer. So this is just my take on, you know, not wanting to see another piece of history demolished.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Leach?
I'd like to pass around a picture to the council, if I may.
Sure.
I'm William I live at 216, own the building at 216 West Park. It's actually 214, 216, and 218 is the addresses that I take up. I'm a building contractor. I've got 48 years experience. I've done multi-million-dollar commercial and industrial projects. Excuse me. I've worked in Shentech, putting up buildings out there for the last 12 years. Almost every building up there in the last 12 years I constructed. So my opinion here has some professional weight behind it. The buildings in the downtown area were built many years ago, and they were built as unreinforced masonry. That means they have no rebar in the walls, no concrete cells filled. They're just basically brick on brick. Those are real weak buildings. They act, all those buildings on the West Park act as a whole when it comes to a heavy storm. They reinforce each other. And if you go and start punching holes in that group of buildings, if you take one out, you weaken the whole. If you take 208 out, 206 right next door, the old White's Cafe building, is structurally deficient now. It needs repairs. You're going to weaken it so much that it could collapse in the next storm. And you're going to leave that one and Betty's building on the corner by themselves to weather the storm. Also, the taking out of one of those, and I've seen this because I've been down there, I've had that building down there for better than 25 years. In bad storms, when we get heavy rain, when one of the roofs are leaking on those buildings, the water gets inside and it seeps through the adjoining walls, and it will go from one building to the next to the next. I've gotten water in my building from 3 buildings up. So punching holes in this group of buildings is a bad idea. Also, we have a group here in Freeport, the Freeport Historical and Main Street Board, which I am a member. And we're working hard to try to preserve, restore, and revitalize the downtown area. If you go down there and start tearing buildings down, that's sort of working against what we're working for. I think that this is all a bad idea, and that we should look towards repairing these buildings instead of signing their death certificate and tearing them down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, council. Does anybody have any discussion on item number 6?
I have questions for Mr. Johnson. He's on here as on the agenda. I'm curious
All
to
right.
hear from him as to the reasons why he wants to demolish it.
I don't know if I would take responsibility for being the one that wants to demolish it, but the board voted unanimously that the building should be demolished. I understand Ms. Richardson's concerns. I'm a historic preservationist myself. These buildings are important to a community, and they serve our collective memory. But I've been told that this building is structurally unsound and it's coming down, and you can even see when you go in that the building's falling. I'm not an engineer, but you can see when you walk in that there's a huge hole in the ceiling, and it looks like it's coming down. Secondly, the city itself has told us that the building needs to come down in a report by code enforcement. And that was reinforced by Turberville Construction, and then Integrated Architecture and Design stated that the building could be rebuilt, but it would have to come down and be rebuilt in their report that they wrote for us.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. So you're saying it is not your idea here to get this demolished, but the EDC board. has the EDC board been presented with all the structural information?
Yes.
And has the board been communicating with the Main Street board and the TERS in terms of actually, let me ask this question. When was this vote taken? Before or after the last two big meetings between the various boards, the collective meetings? Was this vote taken prior to those meetings?
I want to say it was, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was.
So here's the thing that makes me scratch my head on this. You know, I'm all for the idea of let's improving downtown. I've been investing in downtown myself personally, and so have all of my neighbors and business owners that are downtown. And so I know that we had on the agenda a couple of months ago the first reading for the demolition of this. And then we had the group meeting, which included the EDC board, the Main Street board, and the TERS.
board.
And in that meeting, the takeaways were, hey, we need to make sure that we hold on for a second because we have infrastructure issues that no matter what we're going to try to do, we need to address those firstly. And then it was on the agenda for the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, as a second reading, but that got tabled. And my thinking on that was at least I should say, it was my understanding was it was tabled because we were going to wait for the meeting on the 26th of March, where the second community build meeting we would have with the architects from UTSA, who we've contracted for several tens of thousands of dollars to give us some insights as to where we need to take the downtown, and that's supposed to be due in August. So I appreciated the prudence in waiting on the second reading so that we would respect the feedback that we got on the first meeting, the group meeting. But then in the second group meeting, a lot of the same items were reiterated. And so I'm just wondering how we're not doing a second reading as to what the plan would be for downtown by the EDC and the EDC properties. But instead what we're looking at is just strictly going straight to demolishing this particular structure when we're still without the feedback from the UTSA architects, consultants that we've paid several tens of thousands of dollars to give us insight as to what direction we should go. And I know at the first reading I had asked, do we have any engineering reports that actually verify and validate that this is a risk? I know that you had pointed to the city code enforcement previously and then also a contractor looking at it, but I know that there's been several contractors that have looked at it and to do the repairs, but none had ever said, yeah, this is a lost cause, we need to just take it down. But more than anything else, everybody else has been pointing to neighbors as well, business owners downtown, and now various members on these boards, on your board, the EDC board, describing how the infrastructure, the drainage into their buildings is flooding their buildings as the way the grading of the back area of the alleys are situated, and for that matter, the sewage, the gas, and the water lines. And so I'm just thinking, again, here we are, cart before the horse. I'm not sure why we're trying to bullnose this demolition here when it sounds to me like, number one, your prudent approach to this and your background says, hey, this is something we should be salvaging. But more importantly, we've had 2 group city meetings where the various boards that we're referencing here had different opinions that were counter to that vote of unanimous decision-making of saying, hey, well, let's demolish it. And there was a lot of, well, I didn't know this and I didn't know that. We need to basically, stop before we move forward. And so I'm wondering why we're moving forward on that, if that was the sentiment and the response by all the board members.
I don't know that was the sentiment or the response. We basically, there was a change order on the cost of because the building had deteriorated even more, and that's what held up the second reading. Fortunately, it did also have the happy effect of delaying it until after the meeting, but that wasn't the prime cause or driver behind that delay.
I'm curious if there's any of these board members here from EDC that might be present that can speak to that end, if there was any particular change in their vote, if they had it, knowing what they know now versus what they knew when they voted would have a difference of opinion. I don't know if we can ask any of the board members here that are
Well,
part of the EDC.
we
or
discussed it at a subsequent meeting, and they were still of the mind, go forward with it.
Well, I could tell you, I'm very curious to see what that vote would look like today, number one. But since we can't have an impromptu EDC meeting, or I'm hoping that maybe we can table this so that the EDC can in fact come back with another formal vote on this. And the reason is because, again, I'm all for the planning and the money that we're spending to try to get the project right for downtown, not just this building, but the whole scheme of the downtown, that all makes sense. And it's just crazy to me that we're just going to go ahead and just start demolishing buildings when all these other items were considered. And these are the conversations and the questions that were brought up when we were out on the street, when we were at River Place, and for that matter, when we were at the new city hall and having these meetings, and these conversations and these questions were being brought up. That's why I bring them up here tonight. I said, well, let me just wait for the next council meeting or the next EDC meeting, and I'll attend and see if those conversations would change, or for that matter, would be had. And I didn't see that at the last EDC meeting. I'm not sure this next one here is coming up in April. So I would hope that we'd have that discussion in April so that we can have a better sense of what the minds of all of these board members have on this. You know, and I'll say last but not least, when I'm looking at these demolition ideas, you know, I can understand again if it was detrimental, it's structurally unsound, but I've yet to see any documentation of that, number one. But even if it were, I'm curious what the plan and provisions are by the EDC and or Main Street, but by you as the leader of the EDC, the executive director, of what the plan is for that structure, and then what provisions need to be taken for that. I mean, what I'm really concerned about is the liability, because we've heard from Mr. Leach and from Ms. Richardson about the structure, you know, having an adverse effect on the neighboring structures, and that was the thrust of my question on the first meeting. And I'm just curious, have we answered that question? And I'm not sure that we have. And all I'm just saying is that I know that those residents, White's Cafe has reached out to me since then and said, hey, I'm hoping that my building doesn't collapse. So I'm just curious if we're going to go in there and demo it and what that plan is to make sure that the integrity is still maintained. And I don't see anything here yet that's saying, hey, we have that in plan. So I'm not in a position here today to say, yeah, let's go ahead and demo it, because I don't see a complete plan of saying, okay, we're going to demo it, and then we're going to come in the week later and we already have the provisions for making sure that the structure is still sound so that there's no liability of risk of damage to the other properties. There's nothing in this literature that states that. And so that concerns me. And I'm hoping that we can go back and make sure that that is part of this plan, because if we're strictly just trying to sign off for this to be demoed, I mean, if it was a self-standing structure, it might be a different thing. If it was the pharmacy, then we might be having a different conversation. But it's not. It's right in the middle here. And I would hate for us, again, to make a decision that's going to create more legal liability for the city. And that's what I see on this, because if those buildings get compromised and they start falling over, there will be lawsuits coming at council and at the EDC. And I'm just trying to understand I'm trying to understand that we are in fact making sure that that does not happen.
I guess my concern would be
I'll get you, Mr. Leach, just a second. I see your hand.
I guess my concern would be what would happen if the integrity of the building fails now and it falls in on White's Cafe, which is what I've been told is happening. Also, the city said the structure was not built to commercial standards. The metal roof lacks appropriate support, no weatherproofing, no support walls. Recommend immediate demolition, and that's from the city.
Mr. Leach? Thank you, Robert. Don't
Thank you,
leave though,
Mr.
please.
Johnson.
I got some questions for you. Wait till you come up to the mic, sir.
The roof structure on 208 does need to be replaced, but it's the roof structure. Support walls, the side support walls on 208 are actually the best of all the buildings on that side of the street. It's 8 by 8 by 16 cinder block, which is a more modern building material than any of the rest of them are built out of. I have been inside of 208 multiple times. I have talked to my engineer that I've used for many, many, many years, and he says that it could be done. Where, yes, the entire roof structure needs to come out and be replaced because it's leaked for so long. All the metal bar joists are rusted. The metal is, roofing is coming apart. It needs a new roof structure, but it does not need to be completely demoed. It can be repaired. And I failed to mention earlier, the picture that I passed around, that is my building. When I bought that building, it was structurally deficient. The brick was falling off the front of the building.
Thank
The
you,
roof
sir.
had loose
Your
holes.
time's up, but I do have a question for you, so you
Yes,
can
sir.
have a little bit more time. Are you saying that you could tear the roof off and the walls will still remain in
Yes.
place?
Yes.
Okay.
They're in very good shape, and a new roof structure could be put in and supported by the existing walls. That I know for a fact.
Thanks, sir.
All right.
If I'm not mistaken, the existing wall next to White's Cafe is already imploding. Is that correct?
The existing wall next to is leaning. Now, from what I understand, those walls down the side would remain. The roof would be taken off, the front facade and the back wall would be taken off, but those support walls would be staying up.
So Councilman Kane, you're saying that one of the walls is already leaning over?
Correct.
So if the non-engineer, Mr. Kane, is seeing visually that the wall may fall over, what are we doing to make sure that it stays up? But then we also have non-engineer, Mr. Leach, saying that the walls are structurally sound. Who are we going to listen to on this? I go back to also just, what's the plan for this?
I'd listen to the contractor that came to us with his plan.
Well, contractors will say anything to get the job. I'm interested in getting a licensed engineer who has something to lose for it because they're skin in the game of putting their stamp on any particular document. That's where we get our real value add by the expert analysis. And I'm hoping that, you spoke with Integrated Architecture and Designs. I don't know if they spoke to their engineers or not, but if there is a letter that's stamped by an engineer, this goes back to what I said in the first meeting, is like, I'd like to see some engineering plans that qualify that exactly what we're trying to do is not going to create more problems, or that we're solving a problem. I don't know that we're solving a problem. Mr. Leach says they're sound. Mr. Kane says they're not sound. All the contractors that I spoke to when I was on the EDC 2-3 years ago all said it was fine. They were just happy to replace the roof structure. Nothing about demolitioning the front or the back per se, other than the veneer, and to give it a brownstone brick veneer, much like Mr. Leach's, or for that matter, much like some of the other buildings that have brick in front of them.
Mr. Johnson, does Tuberville Construction, do you have the contract for them? I don't see it in our packet.
The contract for them to do the work,
Yes.
it is written, but I don't have it with me, no. It's not executed.
All right. And what is the amount that they are seeking?
18,000, I'm sorry, it went up to $22,120.
We went up 20% in 2 months.
There was more deterioration.
Mayor, can I speak on this subject?
Certainly, sir. Anybody, it's open for a discussion from council.
So, I was a member of the EDC when we were discussing this. And we actually started discussing this in December. So the 20% has gone up since December. The decision was made by the entire board to demolish 208 because it was becoming a money pit. It was the direction of the board to not spend what is on our packet page of 30, an estimate between $450,000 to $650,000 to rebuild it. This is from IAD. We decided as a board that we could better utilize those funds for something else. And so that's why we made the decision after looking at all the facts. And that was the lower end. I think we actually had a quote of nearly $950,000. And we were like, no way. And like it's been stated, contractors will say whatever they want to get a job. And so we made this decision to tear down 208 with the understanding of looking at developing it as either a pocket park, or we're constantly talking about needing restroom facilities when we have items within the park, or festivities within the park. And so that was what the EDC board was talking about. Now, I understand there are some concerns. A lot of people are stating it's a historical building. Yes, it's an older building. It's not historical. I think we only have one downtown that's historical, maybe two. And as we were talking, if it's rebuilt as a building, you can make it look historical. Of course, it's going to have all the modern amenities on the inside. But our biggest concern was if it fell down, injured somebody, or took down an adjacent building. We didn't want that on the EDC's hands. And so that's why we made that decision to tear down 208. And so, again, it was a unanimous decision. We spoke with partners in the Main Street Board, the TERS. It wasn't a decision that we made easily. It was I think we talked about that for about 3 months straight. What are we going to do with 208, 210, 212? And this was what we ultimately decided to do. And so, with that being said, I would like to make a motion to continue.
But make it just one word.
I'm sorry, I let you go past 4 minutes, actually, so, yeah, that's good.
I'm sorry, City
So-
Council, but I don't know who you're getting your estimates from.
Yeah, Mr. Leach, please, Mr. Leach, please follow the rules. Please follow the rules.
So
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-2839 with the demolition of the building at 208 West Park.
All right, we have a motion to approve the resolution number 2024-28. Who's talking? Let's keep it calm, please. Because if I can hear you talking, that means you're talking really loud because I can't hear. Motion by Councilman Matamoros to approve resolution number 2024-2839 for the demolition of the building located at 208 West Park Avenue. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Have a second from Councilman Kane. Further discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments here in response to what's been said here about the buildings being not historical, but just old. That is completely subjective from an untrained, unlicensed individual. Let me just go with what I heard at the last meeting on the 26th of March. The architect's first name was Ian, is that right? What was his first name?
Ian Kane.
Ian
Dr.
Kane.
Kane.
Yeah, I think he came to speak on that first reading as well. Is that right? Or maybe prior to, when he was getting the contract in early January to do the analysis for downtown. Look, there's a lot of buildings downtown that just need to be torn down, right? There's a lot of buildings in Freeport that just need to be torn down. But let's be smart about it, because this is what Ian, the smart person, the licensed person, that came in here And his team made a really good presentation. I know most of the councilmen were there, Mayor was there, and they articulated the points of downtown, for that matter, their expertise analysis of what they've seen already in their preliminary viewing of these buildings. And what Ian and his first, I guess, representative that spoke after he did, I think her name was Megan, is that right? Megan? Yep. My memory is still not gone away here. But I remember Ian and Megan spoke of how wonderful downtown was, because the term that they used was they thought the downtown had, and this is new vocabulary for me, so I learned something that day, because I'm not an expert, but I listen to the experts, that every building down there was a contributing structure, and that they were contributing structures throughout downtown. They didn't identify anything being as a non-contributing structure to the historical story of Freeport. And I can tell you, in the 7 years that I've been in Freeport, I've heard one person after another, visitor, resident that's relocated, retiree mostly, retirees that come in and will, find me outside, either walking my dogs, taking out the trash, and they'll speak to me and they'll tell me all the stories about all the various grocery stores or tailor shops, and they will go down what White's Cafe was before it was White's Cafe. They'll go down what 208 was before it was 208. So there is a story. And what I appreciated about that whole meeting on the 26th, which I'm really glad it occurred because it was so professionally done, and I tip my hat off to yourself, Mr. Johnson, and also Ms. Sobas, Anna Sobas with the Main Street, and the board really leaning on the experts there to give their expert advice, and to hear new vocabulary on how these guys think when they're evaluating downtowns to help can preserve these buildings. It was refreshing to say, okay, you know what, these guys actually have some pretty good ideas. These guys actually seem to know what they're talking about in terms of the historical preservation. So my takeaway from that was, okay, I guess here's some more additional information that the board members, and for that matter, all the citizens that had attended, did not hear at the last council meeting, at the second reading that was tabled, at the first reading, or for that matter, way back in December. There's new information that needs to be considered, and again, I don't feel comfortable making a decision based on information that was not provided to the board that voted on this back in January. So again, I want to lean on the experts, the engineers, and the historical preservationists that we have paid big money to, especially. How much are we paying them? 40,000, 70,000? UTSA?
70.
That's a lot of money to say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to go ahead and start doing some stuff downtown on these contributing structures. We might as well go ahead and end that agreement with them. And I just don't understand that. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, sir. My issue is, I understand what the EDC has said, and they voted unanimously, and I understand the meeting on the 26th, and I actually spoke to Ian and Megan and referenced some of the building being torn down, but my objection to it, actually, at this time, is I'd like to see the contract from Tuberville, because now, I thought it was going to be a complete demo, but now you're saying that they're going to leave the walls up on either side. So, I'm confused, and I'd like to know a little bit more about that, because I understand the walls are not connected. There's space in between the walls. Is that correct?
I'm not sure.
Jeff, do you have an idea on that? Are the walls are the walls connected, or is there a little space in between them?
It's my understanding that there are the walls. From the front side, it looks like there's space on one side. On the other side, it looks connected, but I don't know what's happening in the middle. And I know that a lot of times these buildings will have reinforcements, understanding that they never want to go away.
Yeah.
There was never a plan for them to be demolished onesie-twosie, but so that they would be one homogeneous structure to withstand the hurricanes.
Thank you, sir. So, for that issue, I'm leaning against voting against it at this time, but I'd also like to see the bonding and insured statement from Tuberville as well. I've never heard of Tuberville Construction LLC. So, understanding the wishes of the EDC and others, I still have some concerns. So, anyway, anybody else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 4-1.
What? What was the vote?
It was to approve the resolution, and there was 3, and you didn't say anything, so.
No, I said no.
You said no. All
Yeah,
right.
I wasn't sure what,
Then it's 3-2. Thank you. Item passes
did you,
3-2.
you voted yes?
3-2, that's correct.
Yes or no on?
Councilman Rosso, Councilman Matamoros, Councilman Kane voted yes.
You voted for it, Mr. Rosso?
Councilman Rosso, Councilman Matamoros, Councilman Kane voted yes. You and I voted no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert Johnson. And item number 7, consideration of possible action entering to business associate agreement between HUB International and the City of Freeport. Kathy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
On March 8th of 2024, City Council approved Hub International as a benefit administrator for the City of Freeport. Hub International needs access to protected health information to better serve the employees in the City of Freeport. In order to obtain this information, Hub International and the city need to execute a business associate agreement. This gives them access to the protected health information. They do have to follow all HIPAA regulations, and it's confidential, but they use that to help us when we go to the market for every year for the bids. They also use it to help us come back with any plan structuring that may need to be, or any other plans like wellness or any of those other things that we may need to bring forward to our employees. In order to do that, they need this information.
All right, sound like a plan. I will make the motion to enter into the business associate agreement between Hub International and the City of Freeport. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Councilman Pena. Any further discussion needed? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Kathy. Item number 8, the City Council may deliberate and make inquiry into any items specifically listed as subsection under itemized sections A through F below. Councilman Pena, Ward A, announcements and comments.
Yeah, I want to be sure to request that the chief of police be in the executive session for safety against any repeated attempts of assault by Mayor Brooks Bass. That is not an April Fool's joke, but thanks for the banter. Secondly, I would also like to thank everybody that came out tonight and gave their comments and their time. I know you care about Freeport, and I ask that you continue your participation. It will matter in the long run. The council does need to listen to the citizens. And if the council doesn't listen to the citizens, or if the board members don't listen to the citizens, well, there's an election coming up, and we can make a difference there. I would also like to ask if we can get an update on the remodel of the Pixie House, or if the Pixie House is going to be also demolished summarily and unapologetically. I also want to ask that we get an update to the citizens about the Covarrubias investigation, because I'm getting 1,000 questions as to what in the hell is going on, and why hasn't anything been made public to at least give an update to our citizens, because we want to know if we're going to get any justice in getting those monies returned, and for that matter, an investigation to making sure that anybody and everybody that was involved is removed from City Hall. And on that, I'll also echo that I still maintain that the CFO, who was equally involved, needs to be removed from City Hall.
Councilman Pena, you're going outside your target area. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You're done?
Are you cutting me off to to move on to the next, Councilman, or can I also share some other good news?
If you're gonna share things that you can share, I don't have a problem with you sharing, but when you get into things that you can't share, that you know that you can't share, I have an issue with it.
Well, I don't know that I can't share what's public information.
Yes, you do, sir.
No, I don't.
Yes, well, okay, then you're ignorant, but okay.
No, you're ignorant, sir.
All right.
You know what, Brooks, you really show your true colors.
Thank you, sir.
And you ask these loaded questions.
Well, it's Crooks Brooks, right? Isn't that what
No,
you
it's,
call me?
no, it's Crooks Bass.
Crooks Bass, okay.
Yeah, but when you ask these crazy, silly questions that are off the agenda, I hope that Olson & Olson holds you accountable, which I'm not sure that they're going to. I'll make my statements going forward here on social media, because at least I know that my First Amendment rights won't be violated by you.
Thank you, sir. Put some good music with it. Councilman Kane.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to thank everybody that came out tonight, and especially those that have the courage to stand up and speak to us. It's not an easy thing to do. I would like to let everybody know that we do listen to you. Okay, you might not get an answer right away, but we are listening to you. We are working on the things that you're bringing to us. I would like to thank the EDC as well as the Historical Commission and the Main Street Board. They had a real successful and interactive vision session for the downtown last week. And it was professionally done, good attendance, and the fact that it was more interactive was really important. So great job there, and I can't wait for the next one. Okay. Other than that, Mayor, I want to remind everybody that we do have an election coming up. There's six people, I believe, on the ballots, and each one of us would really like your support. Ain't that right? All right. That's all I got, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Matamoros, Ward C.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, would like to thank the residents who attended in person and viewed online. Same to the residents who spoke during citizens' comments or agenda items. I'd like to thank Mr. Petty for making sure that a majority of the heavy trash within Ward C was picked up. Thank you, Mr. Petty. Now, with that being said, I have driven around a lot of Freeport. There is a lot of limbs, tree trunks that are not in the condition that they're supposed to. So, Mr. Petty, if we can look into getting that, if we have to do it ourselves, pick it up and use that mulch as mulch around trees on 288. I'd like to get that, especially with storm season coming upon us. So if we can look into that. Also, there are some residents who are following the guidelines as laid out in their AmeriWaste contract. And if we can make sure that AmeriWaste is picking up what they're supposed to in both bulk trash and just regular trash. Also, I attended, courtesy of my employer, a couple of events at River Place this past week. And I noticed in the men's restroom, one of the urinals is broken. It was leaking pretty bad. If we can take a look at that and get that resolved fairly soon. There are a lot of good things going on within Freeport. I hear it when I walk the street. Of course, I hear the negative too. But I hear the good things that are going on in Freeport. It's going to take all of us to move it forward. And if we continue to call each other names and things like that. We're just doing what the other cities around us want us to do and not move forward. And so with that being said, let's try and mend what fences we can. If they can't be mended, well, then they can't be. But let's try and move Freeport forward, because that's what we need to do. That's all I have to say, Mayor.
Councilman Rosso, Ward D.
Yes, I also would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, even those that's online. And speaking of online, I've been asked why I don't get in a battle with the Facebook people. I personally believe Facebook is for the individual or private, even though it's public, but I don't think it's good to bash the city or criticize each other on Facebook. My other item is I'm looking forward to the Riverfest. That is so positive for the city of Freeport, and I heard that it's going to be really good this year. They got some good bands. I also attended the Main Street Board, and I think Anna is doing a great job. You can feel her compassion, and you can feel her heart in her endeavors to help this city. She's one of the positive ones in this city, and I try to stay positive. My email, my text, my phone number, or you're welcome to give me a call, and I'll personally address whatever thing that come up. That's all I got, Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Petty?
Yes, sir. First off, the Skinner project is moving forward. And Chief Howell is the assistant city manager, so if I'm out of pocket or anything like that, you're more than welcome to reach out to her. We are setting a meeting up with AmeriWaste so we can discuss some of the issues with the trash service. We'll be getting that set up. Hopefully, we'll meet with them the end of this week, if not first of next week, because there are some issues with the trash service. And we are taking steps in the City Hall matter. I can't discuss any further about that right now, but we have taken the steps necessary to start trying to recover some of our funds.
You referring to Covarrubias?
Sir?
Are you referring to Covarrubias?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we'll go into closed session. Number 9, executive session regarding
that
consultation with attorney, possible litigation, Park Avenue Lofts, Jeff Pena for suit for unpaid hotel
I have
occupancy
the
taxes
motion.
pursuant to section. I'm sorry?
I have my motion. Was that going to still be?
All right, let me get through this, and then we'll get to your motion. Let's see, let me read it again. Executive session regarding A, consultation with attorney, possible litigation, Park Avenue Lots, Jeff Pena for suit for unpaid hotel occupancy taxes
Incorrect.
pursuant to section 551.071B. Deliberations about real property, O.A. Fleming property, Freeport 19 LLC pursuant to section 551.072. And Councilman Pena, you have a motion, sir.
Yes. I want to make a motion to request the police chief to be in executive session for the safety against repeated attempts of assault by Brooks Bass and trying to silence me for all the Covarrubias cover-ups that he was a part of and all the brimmage sweeping under the rug that he was a part of, and the list goes on. And I would like to make that motion. I'm hoping that the rest of council will finally show some integrity for once and actually vote to approve it, because you know exactly what happened in that meeting. I'm not holding my breath. But if
Okay.
you want to mend fences, this is the start.
Well,
So-
I'm going to second it, but I'm going to second it because you're questioning my integrity. Sir, I've
Good.
never questioned your integrity
Oh, I question
on
yours, sir.
an item like this.
You've proven it over and over. That's why. This
Okay,
is a step in the right direction.
stop. Councilman,
No, this is a step in the right
Councilman Morris,
direction.
please stop. Councilman Pena, please stop. Councilman Pena has a motion on the floor. Councilman Matamore, second it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No.
No. All right.
Remember
so
Election
it's
Day, May 4th.
1-4. Yep, well, too bad you're not up, but that's just something else.
I'm glad you're not.
Yeah.
I heard you
So,
punched out on it.
You know, I will say this.
Okay, here we go. This is on the agenda?
No, I have a motion to include, I'm doing my job, sir. I have a motion to include the city manager, Lance Petty, into executive session. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
Now we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in executive session. Councilman Pena, if you'll step out, please, sir, because we're going to discuss you